Hello YouTube, I hope everybody's doing great, and today I will show you how I turn this by using this into this. But before that, let me introduce you to my sponsor PCBWay.com. This video is sponsored by PCBWay.com. Get your high quality PCBs from one place with instant online quotes. Select the features from various options, choose between advanced and standard PCBs, including Flex PCB, assembly and stencils. But there's more. They also have online injection molding service, CNC machining with many materials to choose from, online sheet metal fabrication, including laser cutting and bending, and of course 3D printing service with different plastics, even metal. PCBWay is the one company that you'll need. So PCBWay.com sponsored this video by providing me these beautiful PCBs that I of course designed, including a stencil. So putting parts, the assembly components and reflow them makes it a breeze to do. And in this video I will show you how to do it. Stay tuned. Okay, here I will try to show how I do the stencil part. First what I do is I get my board design and print it out and mark the different components I'm gonna use. I'm gonna do a parts list here. This is the back of the board, this is the front of the board, in case it is a two-sided with components. And what I also do is, let me show you real quick, I actually add, well, if my board has holes, mounting holes, I take them over to the stencil. Yeah, you can see the holes. This is the front part, this is the back part, and then I have these 2mm pins. I use 2mm holes for 2mm screws, and once I put it in here, which gives me some stability here, I just tape those down, and then I can add the board. So once the pins are in there, this is not going anywhere. Well, the whole PCBs, I can just tape it down here, but I don't need to. And then I will use solder paste. This is what I'm using, and with this nice spatula, metal spatula, to spread it and then put the components on there and then reflow them. So that's the initial part, and let's see. Okay, I'm not sure if my hands will cover what I'm actually doing, if they get in front of the camera. Let me take a little bit out of here. That should be enough. I'll just hold it on one side and then spread it. This particular board has 3 mounting holes. And actually it's not even meant to be mounted, but those holes definitely help holding the stencil in place without how you call those, stencil holders or so. Actually this is all there is to it. It takes seconds, and I used to do this by hand for a very long time before I started ordering stencils. And here you see it's all smudged up, but I will fix that. I could just wipe it down, do it again, but my solder paste is kinda soft, and I just fixed this, well, part of it with a needle, and I just go in between the pins and take them out. Well, for that I will have to move the camera out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. So I actually didn't have to do much. I just took some paste away from the LDOs that I have there and put some spaces in between the micro SD card slot pins. And actually, when you put this in the oven and reflow, the paste gets spread out anyway, and then once it gets hot or hotter to the melting, not melting point, to the soldering point, I would say, it pulls itself together, and then you can, of course, that will fix any problems that you might have, or, well, too much solder. I also put some lines in here on the USB chip. So now I will populate this, and I normally put my parts, get them ready here, and then use just a second, pull the parts that I need. Normally before I get this, like here for example, I have the transistors that I'm use on those 3D printed reels. These are magnets, and I just have them in front of my monitor with all the parts. I put them all together, and then I put parts on the PCB. Let me do that. Okay, here I have the parts populated. As you can see, that one connector here is for the display, so that will be soldered by hand after both sides are reflowed. And now it goes into my reflow oven. Okay, here I placed it in my reflow oven on a small tray, which makes it easier to pick it up, and smaller PCBs would fall through that rather large metal grid here. So I will put this on, and then we'll see what comes out of it. Okay, now that one side is reflowed, I do a visual inspection, and all seems to be good. Only this one LDO is a little bit crooked on there, but that does not matter, of course. Everything else looks good. No solder bridges nowhere. I mean, these are 0805 components, and rather easy to work with. I could do this by hand as well, as I did many years until I discovered reflowing. So anyway, now I'm gonna flip this and do the same thing with the front side. This is a little bit more involved, or it has some tighter pins up here, but it's no problem. So off we go. Okay, now I did the front side according to my oversized plan, and we pick it up. So this is how the front side looks like, and now it goes into the reflow oven again. Okay, here we have now the front part after reflowing, and I also did add some integrated circuit sockets for the LEDs. You can see here, because I wanted them to be removable, and since my design has an LDR sensor, and I planned on having one infrared LED on the bottom. I mean, you can change them around, of course, and a white LED. and they would be controlled by the sensor automatically. You can of course put 2 white LEDs in here or 2 infrared LEDs. These are just some white LEDs. I'm still waiting on the infrared LEDs. You can use 5mm LEDs, that's what I designed it for, but even 8mm LEDs would fit in here if you wanted to have more power. Also these LEDs, well, not these ones, but other LEDs do come with different angles, and depending on the camera module that you want to use. This is a standard lens. There are also wide angle lens modules that you can use. Plus they also do come, I have ordered them, still waiting to arrive. They have night vision cameras as well. They only are sensitive in the infrared light, 850 nanometer to be exact. So I did order some 850 nanometer LEDs, and that way you could make it a night vision camera specifically if you have any dark room for that matter. And this is the connector that I'm using. This is a flip up type connector, which actually I find easier to use, plus it takes up less space, not place. Oh boy. So that goes just in there, and then you flip it down. But I won't do this for now because I want to solder on the display. So this module has a display as well. It has the micro SD card, it has the USB adapter, a serial chip, so you can connect it to your PC and upload and it has the transistors, and you can upload code with that without having to push any reset buttons or boot buttons, and it's all automatically done. So most other cheap camera modules, you have to push the buttons to upload code, and I find it rather cumbersome. So anyway, this is the connector for the display. On this board I'm using the square 1.3 inch IPS display that I use in many of my projects. And this is the connector, and as you can see you have 2 holes here and corresponding 2 holes here, and that gives me the ability to use a little metal pin that I bent to the exact distance. It's actually 10mm distance. Let me put this down in here. Okay, and that way I can just place it on here, and then it will be aligned correctly, because if you place it a little crooked and then you fold it over, the display will stay crooked on there. So this way it does not happen. And let me take my trusted vise. I would not know what to do without this vise. It is really handy. So I put the PCB in here, and then I take some of my solder paste. I have to think a second about the name. And let me do this right directly here, because I cannot see it correctly through the camera since my eyes are getting old. I'm using glasses and a magnifying glass. Okay, so I did put a little bit of solder paste on here, and then I'm gonna take the camera. Let me see if I can do it from here. Assist a little bit with my tweezer. As you can see, it is correctly aligned, plus it holds it in place. And now I can take my soldering iron and solder it in place. This is it. That's all it takes. And as you can see here, hopefully it did solder perfectly. Then of course I take the metal pin out. And now when I flip this over, it will be perfectly aligned. So this is how I do solder on the displays by hand. I don't see any other possible way to do it, unless you have it assembled by the factory. So this was the display part, and I think now, once I slide in the camera, it is ready for the next part with the software. Okay, so far so good. Till later. Okay, I just also wanted to show how I affix the display to the PCB so it won't fly around till it gets into an enclosure. I just use some double-sided tape, and here I have a nice flat surface, even surface, and then I can just bend it, fold it over and glue it in place. To make this less finicky, I do this in my vise. Let me see if I can even... Well, I have to do this off camera, beside the camera, so I can align it by looking exactly on from the top. Just 1 second. You can actually follow me here on my mini monitor. And that's it. So now I have the display affixed, and I like to use those little thicker foam two double-sided tapes, because these I can, if I want to take it off, and since the display is a very delicate device with it actually has a real glass top, you can see my fingerprint there. It would crack if I want to pry it off here. So I like to use those tapes that are foam tapes that are a little thicker, and then I can just go in with a knife and actually cut it in half and take it apart that way without going into risking of damaging the display. So this was the conclusion of part 1 of this video, and I want to thank PCBWay again for sponsoring these beautiful PCBs. Always very happy with their work. And as you can see here, I actually used the module with a RF antenna connector, because I want to use a external antenna with this to get the maximum on distance. Oops, sorry. Get the maximum of distance to my Wi-Fi router. So anyway, I wanted to thank again, I think I did, PCBWay and my 6 Patreons, and thank you to them, and please do support me by, if you like the video, by liking it, of course. If you don't like it, just go to the next one that you like. Anyway, you can subscribe to my channel if you like, hit the notification bell so you get notified about new videos, the second video about this. And now I can actually also plug the display in, since we have soldered on the plug in the camera module, since it's soldered on the display that way. And that's it. The other connectors you have to push the plastic part in on both sides simultaneously, and I like the flip ups much better. So anyway, you can support me by liking my channel, my YouTube, my video, and maybe buying something from my Tindy store, or even maybe become a Patreon, or just buy me a cup of coffee. Every little bit helps, and thank you again. Till the next time.